In the second half of 1965, for the 1966 model year, Ford gave us the Bronco off-road SUV, which, I mean, we all know is just a very legendary vehicle. That was the first generation. The Bronco lasted 5 generations, ending production in 1996. 25 years later, in 2021, Ford gave us the 6th generation Bronco, and it was obviously a big hit and a huge competitor to the Jeep Wrangler, available in multiple cool trim levels, all the way from a base lame Bronco all the way up to the big time Sasquatch. 4 doors, 2 doors, V6, Turbo 4, what have you. And then Ford decided to step it up a little bit and gave us this, the Ford Bronco Raptor. Welcome back to That Car Vlog channel, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at this brand new Ford Bronco Raptor. This is probably one of the coolest off-road SUVs around. We're going to take a full tour of this thing inside and out, check out all its features and specs, and then we're going to do something I've wanted to do since they released it, take it out and drive it. Unfortunately, not on the trails. Let's get started. But before we begin, I need to give a huge shout out, special thanks to the folks at Ted Russell Ford of Knoxville, Tennessee for providing the vehicle for today's review. Once you get done watching this video, make sure to check them out at the link in the description below. All right, so we're gonna start as I always do on the outside of the car, and we're gonna start looking right here at the front of the Raptor, starting here at the grille. So you're gonna notice a much more aggressive grille up here with the big F-O-R-D Ford lettering, like Ford likes to do on the Raptor versions of their vehicles. They do the same thing on the F-150. Anything lower than this, it says Bronco across the front. Here you got your daytime running lamps. Now on any other Bronco, these are white LED running lamps. However, on the Bronco Raptor, you get the ambers. Across the top here, you see you got your 3 clearance lights right here. These are actually a requirement because of how wide this vehicle is. You got the 3 right there, and then up here on the mirrors, you got the other 2, one on either side. That's a total of 5, because you got to have those because of how wide this thing is. Got a super tough off-road bumper here with removable end caps, factory built-in fog lights down here, big beefy tow hooks. And if we come down here towards the bottom and just kind of point the camera all the way along the bottom of the truck, you're going to see this thing is nothing but skid plates. Up here on the hood, you got a couple spots where you can hook cables for clearing tree branches on the trails. Up here, you'd hook the other point of contact up here on the roof. A slightly different hood on the Bronco Raptor. You got this big black panel right here with some vents that are, I'm guessing, for heat extraction. You got the big Raptor badge right here on the side. As with all your Broncos, your side view mirrors are not attached to the doors. They're actually attached to the cowl right here. So you can open the doors, the mirrors don't move. That way you can take the doors off of this thing and still have mirrors, unlike with the Jeep Wrangler. Specific to your Bronco Raptor, you got these fender vents right here, so I'm guessing for maybe more heat extraction or maybe just to look cool. Big, huge, wide fender flares, because underneath those fender flares, factory 37-inch tires, 37 by 12.5s, mounted on 17-inch wheels. Optional 17-inch beadlock capable wheels as well. Coming back from that, factory rock rail right here with removable step board right here, so you can unbolt this step board and just have your rock rail from the factory. That way you don't have to worry about messing your body up when you're driving over big obstacles. If we peer in here behind the tire on the rear, you see you got some big beefy Fox off-road shocks with remote reservoirs. Come around back, you got Raptor specific taillights for the Bronco Raptor. You got your clearance lights right here in the back as well, because you got to have the ones in the rear. They've actually integrated them into the third brake light. And because this thing has factory 37-inch tires, it also has a factory 37-inch spare tire, which clearly takes up most of the rear gate. You got your Raptor badge sitting right here, barely visible around that tire, and over here is your Bronco badge, also barely visible. Interesting touch, if you do want to open up the back, you do have to open up the lower part first, all the way, and then you can open up the glass. This glass cannot be opened without opening the bottom. But then, of course, if you do need to keep it open to load something long in there, you can close it right back up. Neat little Easter egg, if we focus in right here, you're going to see on the back side of this brake light is Raptor stamped in there backwards. That way you can read it correctly in your rear view mirror. Your massive fender flares also meant that the fuel door had to be a bit smaller on this thing, and it is a bit smaller than your standard Bronco. Another neat Easter egg, zooming in right here above the fuel fill, you got a 1969 Bronco, you got this Bronco, and you got what looks like a concept from 2019. If we look here at the back side of the side view mirrors, you're gonna see another red light. This is cool because this actually serves as the other side clearance lights on either side for the rear. Now I want to focus back on the tire area for a minute and talk about a couple things you can't see. Now we talked about the factory 37-inch tires, the 17-inch wheels, and optional 17-inch beadlock capable wheels, which is already cool enough, as well as the Fox shock. What you can't see, however, behind here is Ford has put different axles on this thing, which are beefier and they're more reinforced in order to give it this wider track. With the axle and tire combination on this thing, you've got over 8 inches wider track than on the standard Bronco. Another thing you can't see is the shock tires in this thing have been updated in order to give this thing more suspension travel. Altogether, you get over 13 inches of ground clearance, which is about 4.5 inches more than your standard Bronco. Couple more important notes about the body. We were just talking about width of the vehicle. Because of these massive fender flares and the big 37-inch by 12.5 tires, the overall width of this Bronco right around 9.8 inches wider than a standard Bronco, which is just insane, bringing this thing to almost 87 inches wide. Over 80 inches, which is why you need those clearance lights. Other things to note, you're only going to get your Bronco Raptor in the 4-door configuration, no 2-door, and you're only going to get it with the removable hardtop, no soft top available. However, like I just said, it is fully removable, very easily removable up here and here. The back has to be unbolted, but still, you do get a removable top. It's just a little bit more involved than with the soft top. All right, now we've talked a little bit about size of this thing, given some figures about how big this thing is compared to the standard version of the truck. And you can probably tell with me standing next to this thing, because I'm just a little over 6 feet tall. This thing is huge. This is a big vehicle. But I wanted to make one more size comparison just to really put this thing into perspective. So I'm sure if I asked for a show of hands of who remembers the original Hummer H1, I don't think there'd be very many hands that didn't go up. So I went online last night after watching a YouTube video about the H1 Hummer and got some dimensions. And I'm going to compare the two just for size perspective. Your H1 Hummer, 185 inches long. Your Bronco Raptor, 191, so already longer than that truck. Width, your H1 Hummer and your Bronco are very close to the same at 87 inches wide or so. As far as height is concerned, your H1 Hummer is about 71 to 79 inches high. Bronco Raptor, 77.8. So this thing is as big as an H1 Hummer. The only thing about the H1 Hummer that's going to be bigger than this thing other than the engine is the interior cabin space, where it comes all the way out to the edges and you're sitting there next to the door. It makes it look way bigger than this truck. But in reality, as far as width, height, length, they're the same, just not the interior cabin space. There's some perspective for you. Depending on how you spec your standard Bronco, you can get it with either a turbocharged V6 or with a turbocharged 4-cylinder. Now, no matter which one of those you get, you're getting the 10-speed automatic transmission. However, your Bronco Raptor comes with one engine option, and that's right here in front of you, the 3-liter twin turbocharged V6, cranking out 418 horsepower and 440 pound-feet of torque. Now for comparison, the most horsepower you're getting out of the non-Raptor Bronco is right about 330. Your F-150 Raptor has the 3.5-liter twin turbo V6, making 450 horsepower, so not much more than this thing. And just to compare it to a direct competitor, the Jeep Wrangler 392, the beefy V8 version, cranks out about 470 horsepower. So once again, not a heck of a lot more than this thing right here. Now, like I said before, the only transmission option you're going to get in the Bronco Raptor is the 10-speed automatic. Although there is a 7-speed manual option available in certain configurations of the standard Bronco, you're not going to get that option here in your Bronco Raptor. As far as fuel economy is concerned, don't expect a lot. EPA estimated 15 city, 16 highway. Towing capacity of up to about 4,500 pounds. As far as 0 to 60 is concerned, Car and Driver tested this thing to right about 5.6 seconds, 0 to 60, so right around 5.5 seconds. So it's definitely not a slouch. All right, that's the exterior and powertrain. Let's get on into the interior. Open up here and you're gonna see a frameless window on this door, which makes this kind of cool because with the window down, you can remove these doors, all 4 of them in fact. As we come in here looking at the door panel, you're gonna see it is all black. Not much to see here. You do have this nice storage net here with a little bit of red accenting. Down here on the door sill, you get your Ford Performance sill plate right here. These floor mats here with the Raptor logo imprinted in them. Pull these things out, you can easily wash these mats out. You get them too dirty, you can wash them out easily. Right here, these seats are your optional leather trim seats right here for a little bit more comfort. They have okay bolsters on them, not insane bolsters. Standard is more of an easy clean marine grade vinyl type of seat. These are the optional seats, so these are nice seats. But if you think you're gonna get your seats really dirty and need to clean them easily, I would definitely go for the marine grade vinyl. But they are nice. They got some perforations in here with accented color. Right here on the seat back, you can see embroidered on there's a Raptor. Get a little bit of contrasted stitching, a little bit of red down here. Oh, and there's some red seat belts. I think it's actually called Code Orange. All right, moving up to the end of the dashboard right here, you get these cool grab handles with the Bronco kind of stamped into them. And if you'll zoom in on the bolts that hold that handle in, you're actually going to see that the bolts even say Bronco on the heads of them, which is kind of a cool touch. Swinging around to our steering wheel here, I do like this steering wheel. Now this one here is supposed to be a bit thicker than the steering wheel in the standard Raptor, you know, for a better feel and more grip when you're off-roading. Down here, you get a nice Raptor logo right down here. This steering wheel does have the optional carbon fiber bezel, which is part of the carbon fiber package. If we swing back over there to the handle, you're going to see you get the carbon fiber in the handle as well. And then down here on the shift knob, you also get carbon fiber shift knob. That, the steering wheel bezel, and the two grab handles, as well as this handle right here, all have carbon fiber on them. That is, if you option the carbon fiber package for the interior, which is a $1,700 option. Looking more at the wheel, you got some nice red contrasted stitching right here, red center line. I keep saying red, but it's more of the Code Orange that Ford calls this. You got your standard array of buttons right here for your adaptive cruise control, for your infotainment, for your center screen, steering feel, R mode, which is your configurable drive mode, suspension settings, and exhaust settings. As we continue across, you're going to see your air vents right here. The little adjuster here is also in the Code Orange, which is kind of cool. In between these two, you get your 12-inch infotainment screen running Ford Sync 4 with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We'll get into that more in a second. Below that, you get a few physical controls for your infotainment and your radio, as well as physical controls for your dual zone climate control. Continuing across the other side, you do get the Bronco stamped in here with the Code Orange lettering. Looks really cool on this dash. Now we'll go up on top of the dash. There's a lot of really cool features here on top of the dash, starting with this series of buttons right here. Going from right to left, you have your hazards. Here's your traction control off. This is a trail turn assist mode, which is a really cool feature that will lock the inside rear wheel of whatever turn you're trying to make. So as an example, this illustration here is showing a right turn. So if you're going to make a hard 90-degree right turn on the trail, it's going to lock that inner wheel on the right side on the rear to make that easier to turn. It'll do the same thing if you're making a left turn as well, but it'll lock that left wheel. Right here's the button for your locking rear diff. Here's the button for your locking front diff. And here's the button for your electronic sway bar disconnect to give you a little bit more suspension travel and help you get over some trickier obstacles out on the trails. Moving up from that, you got an interesting thing right here. You got some charging ports here on top. Weird place for those. You got a USB type A and type C, but not weird in this vehicle because right here is a point where you can mount a GoPro right here on the dash of your Bronco. No additional equipment needed. I think there might be some sort of optional like mounting rail you can mount things to, but this is where you're going to mount a GoPro or whatever. So if you want to record your action on the trails, but you don't want to hold the camera or you don't have somebody with you to do it, it'll point straight out the window, which is really cool. And then over here in the corner, you can see right here, you got a speaker on either corner of the dash, which is part of your 10-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system in this thing, which is actually standard option. Now, if you don't want that, if you want to save about 400 bucks, you can go with the standard 7-speaker option. But if anybody who's listened to a B&O system knows, that's the system you want. Continuing upward, you got even more cool stuff up here. Now up here you got your standard stuff like, you know, dome lights and that kind of thing. But right here you have a series of 6 switches. This is something that Ford introduced on the first generation F-150 Raptor, these upfitter switches. These are already in the truck, wired up for your accessories. You wire whatever you want to these things, trail lights, winches, whatever. So you don't have to drill into your dash or anything like that to install an auxiliary switch. Ford has already given you those. And they're, let's face it, they're just so satisfying to use. All right, now we're gonna make our way back down here below the climate controls. Open this cover, you got some charging ports right here, USB type A and C. You do have a wireless charging pad right in front of that. This cool Ford Performance Bronco badge. And what I think is really cool about it is the screws that hold it in are in the place where the headlights would be on the front of the actual truck. Over here, here's your selector for your 10-speed automatic transmission. Once again, the only option for the Bronco Raptor. Dual cup holders, of course. Behind the shifter, you have your drive mode selector as well as your 4-wheel drive control. You see here it says GOAT mode. GOAT standing for goes over any type of terrain. which is exactly how it says it on the Ford website. So looking at the gauge cluster screen, we're going to look at these GOAT modes right now. Your Bronco Raptor comes with all 7 available GOAT modes, starting with slippery mode for, of course, rain and snow. Next, you have tow haul, because once again, you can tow this thing up to 4,500 pounds. Next, you have sport mode for a bit more spirited driving. Normal mode, if you know, whatever, normal driving. Next, we have off-road mode. Once again, this is going to put you into 4-wheel drive, 4-high actually. Then we get into the really cool modes. Baja mode, which is going to be great, of course, for sand and whatnot. And then you have rock crawl mode, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to put you in 4-low. It's going to allow you to crawl over some crazy obstacles. Now, looking at the center infotainment screen, if we put this thing into Baja or rock crawl mode, it's automatically going to activate the front-facing camera on this thing, and it's going to give you the tire track lines to tell you where your front tires are going to go ahead of you, to help you more easily navigate those types of tough terrain. Coming back from the GOAT mode selector, you do have your power window switches here in the center, as well as your window lockout and your power mirror controls. These are not mounted on the doors. In fact, the only power option mounted on the doors is the controls for the power locks, because of the fact that these doors are removable. They just go ahead and put everything right here, and there's a plug you unplug down here when you remove the doors. Back from there, here's your center console storage lid. Got the Raptor logo embossed into that. Open that up and you get an okay amount of storage in here. It's not incredibly large, but it is pretty deep. And you do get a 12-volt round port right here inside of that center console. Looking a bit more detail here at the climate controls. Once again, I do like that these are physical controls and they're not hidden in the screen or whatever, which is always a great thing. I do like that right here, this power button is also the display screen for the temperature for the driver's side, and the passenger side temperature display is also the dual zone on or off button, which is kind of a neat touch. You do have heated steering wheel, heated seats for both sides, however no cooled seats, which, okay, sure, that's all right. Nothing else special down here, but definitely some nice features to have in this vehicle. Focusing here on the infotainment screen, once again, this is the 12-inch infotainment screen on this thing, running Ford Sync 4. You do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You do have navigation maps, which is nice if you don't want to use your phone, but let's face it, most of us are going to use our phones. I've covered the system in a few Ford vehicles now. It's a decent system. It's pretty responsive. Go over here to features, and actually I want to zoom in on this features button, because the features button is has a Bronco on it. Zoom into there and you get, you know, owner's manual, towing check, that kind of thing. Just a quick run through the tabs down here. You got your audio, you got your phone. There's a button to get you back into your nav. App screen right here. You can see your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and then of course there's your settings screen. The other thing I like is you do have the separate screen over here on the side. So for instance, you can see you've got the maps over here, audio over here, or you can choose what you want to see. Maybe you want to see your Bluetooth connectivity, trip meters. Here's a display for your pitch and roll. That way, if you're off-road, you know which way it's leaning. Another cool Easter egg, zooming in here, you get an old school Bronco as the image right there instead of this Bronco or something generic. Get off-road status screen to show you what's going on with your drivetrain. Down here is zone lighting, so you can turn on all the lighting on the outside of the truck, so turn that on. It's got lighting on the front, the rear, underside of the mirrors. You can decide where you want that on or off from that zone lighting menu. And then right back to audio. Or if you want to do it differently, you can hit this button here. It looks like pages, and you can kind of scroll through those things right there. But it's quicker to just, you know, move through it with the arrows. Otherwise, I'm not going to go into too much detail with this system. I have covered it in other Ford vehicles. Great intuitive system, very responsive to your touch, and has the dual display, which I definitely like. And the Android Auto Apple CarPlay feature is also a wonderful bonus. While we're looking at the screen, let's come down here and hit this camera button. Come back up and you can see now you've got a front-facing view out the front of the truck. So you look here, same view as on the screen. You also got this nice top-down view. Hit this button right here, you're gonna get a few more options. Now you've got the big view of the front camera. Hit this again, and now you got kind of a wider type of view. It's kind of interesting there. Put that back on surround. Now if you put it in reverse, it's going to do the same thing, except it's going to give you the rear view now. You still get the top down view. Come up here, you get the full screen, and you get the 3-panel right there. Hit this plus button, you get it zoomed in right down there on the bumper on the center line. So if you're hitching up a trailer or something, you're going to tow this thing, it's going to make it nice and easy. Zoom that back out. Interesting thing about this, with the big 37s on it, if we cut this wheel all the way around, you're going to start to see that big tire poking into the camera view right there. All right, coming to the back, starting with the door panels, you got pretty much the same thing as you got up front. You got that storage pocket right there. As you move inward, you're gonna see the back of the front seats have this nice storage net right here with that code orange elastic right there. And then above that, you've got this grid. This is the, I don't know if it's M-O-L-L-E. I don't know if you're supposed to say mole or mole, not really sure. It's the mole strapping system. The idea is you're supposed to be able to use this grid to loop the straps of your gear through. Moving more inwards here to the back of the center console, once again, you got your power window switches right here. Same reason as up front because of the doors being detachable. Right here, you do have USB charging, type A and type C, and you get 110 volt house type outlet also, which is very nice. And another neat touch, your washable floor mat down here has a nice Bronco logo right there in the middle of it. Taking a broader look at the back, you can tell they didn't leave the back seat out as far as styling is concerned. It's styled exactly like the front. It looks really nice. It's got the same type of materials, it's got the same contrast stitching, it's got the same code orange seat belts. The only thing you're not getting back here is the embroidered Bronco logo. Pull down right here, get your cup holders right here on this little armrest. And of course, just like with any SUV, these seats can be folded down just like that. All right, jumping into the rear cargo area, open this door with the giant tire attached and swing this glass up here. And we'll look in here. It's a decently spacious cargo area. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but it definitely could be smaller. Underneath this optional floor protector, you can see you do have a carpet area right here. You got some nice tie downs. And check out the logo on the tie downs. It's a lasso because Bronco. Picking up on the floor right here, not a lot. You get your jacks down here and a little bit extra storage right down here for small items. Not much to see there. Get a storage pocket right here on the driver's side. And on the passenger side, you get your 12 volt round back here and your cargo light with a cool little glowing Bronco right in the middle. You see right here, you got your roll bars for when the roof is off. This is what's going to protect you in case of rollover. And they are body color. No matter what color you get, they are body color because, well, they need to match, right? Once you're done back here, make sure to put the glass down first, unless you got long items you've loaded, and then close the rear gate and that big tire. All right, so now we're gonna focus down here on the exhaust, specifically here on the rear, because this thing actually has a few different exhaust modes for different sound. Using this button right here on the right side of the steering wheel, you can switch between the 4 different exhaust modes: quiet, normal, sport, and Baja. To the left of that button, you're going to see this one looks like a shock absorber. This is for your suspension settings. So this is how you're going to adjust your suspension dampers. You got normal suspension, you got sport suspension, and off-road suspension to give you the best possible off-road experience with your shocks. Then over here on the left side of the steering wheel, you got a steering wheel button. That button's going to adjust your steering feel. Once again, you got normal, comfort, and sport steering feel. And then you've got this button that says R on it. This is a configurable drive mode. And right here in front of the steering wheel, you do have your fully digital gauge cluster screen. It's going to give you all kinds of great information. It does look like a standard set of gauges pretty much. You got your tachometer over here on the left and your speedo over there on the right with, you know, those important gauges up there at the top, such as fuel and whatnot. Down here in the main menu, you got all your typical things like, you know, trip and fuel economy, navigation, phone audio, and of course your settings menu, which is all great, nice things to have. But we passed up an item in this menu that's really cool and unique to the Raptor, and that is Raptor information. So if we go into that, click on Raptor status, and now it's going to tell you the status of your exhaust, the steering feel, and traction control and whatnot, depending on, of course, your drive mode and what you've got turned on or off. Back up from that, off-road status, we're going to go into that. And of course, it's going to show you your pitch and roll off to either side. It's going to show you what's going on with your drivetrain right here. And if I turn the steering wheel, it's going to turn the front wheels in the graphic. I always love to see stuff like that. Go down here to My Gauges. Going to give you a couple more gauges, such as your oil pressure and your trans temp. It says press OK to choose gauges. Do that, and you're going to be able to go into this menu right here and select what you want to have included in that My Gauges menu option right there. Bunch of different options to choose from. Very nice configuration there. Go down here to Measurements, and you get a few more things, such as your vacuum or boost pressure, oil pressure, engine temperature, cylinder head temperature, that kind of thing. Press OK for more information. Here's just a little bit more. It's actually giving you air-fuel ratio right here, which is actually something I've never seen. It's kind of cool. As well as inlet air temperature and air charge temperature for the turbos. That's kind of neat. Let's back up from that and go down to tire pressures. Here's your tire pressure monitoring system, which is nice. Pitch and roll. Click on that and you've got a big center display now for the pitch and roll of the truck. Next is power distribution, which is kind of cool. This is going to show you the percentage of power that's being sent to each individual tire. All right, now I want to focus attention back up to the roof of the vehicle, but we're going to go from the inside right now, because remember a few minutes ago I said this thing has removable hardtop panels. So you get two panels up front above driver and passenger, one in the rear above the second row. You just got a series of latches on each panel. So here on the driver's side, for instance, you got 1, 2, 3 right here, and then pull down on this guy. And because this thing is a beast, climb up on the step boards and lift this panel right off. And then just rinse and repeat for the passenger side. And for the big panel over the second row, which you might need a second person to help you with. And if we just back up, you can see you've got this big open air experience, especially if you have all 4 windows down and all the roof panels off. Like I was saying before, this big rear section here is also removable. However, it's not quite as easy. You do have to take out a few bolts, and you're definitely going to want some help to lift that off to get the absolute full open air experience in this thing. Then of course, once you're ready to put them back on, it's just a simple reverse of the removal. Clip them in place and you've got your hardtop, you know, in case it's going to rain or something. All right, so now of course I know everybody's wondering about pricing, so here's a screenshot of where I went online to the configurator and kind of did some pricing on this thing. So you see your starting MSRP for the Bronco Raptor is just a hair over $90,000. And then I gave it some options such as a carbon fiber pack, a graphics pack, that kind of thing. And we come down here to an estimated net of over $96,000. Looking at the window sticker on this example, this one is pretty much equipped to just a little over $96,000. This one pretty much has most of the options except for the graphics on the outside and the beadlock capable 17-inch wheels. But it does have the carbon fiber and stuff like that. So $96,000, almost 100 grand for a Ford Bronco Raptor. That is crazy, crazy money. But this is a crazy, crazy vehicle. Taking a look at the key here, it is a standard Ford key, much like pretty much any other Ford vehicle you're going to get, except if you turn it over, and there is a sticker on it, but if you turn it over, instead of the Ford logo, you get the Raptor logo. All right, time to drive the Bronco Raptor. Definitely makes some noise out of that exhaust. So first impression driving this thing has a presence on the road. First of all, this thing is wide, 87 inches wide. This thing fills the lane. That's not to say that we're exactly, you know, line to line, but pretty close. If you're not used to driving wide vehicles, this one might take a minute to get used to. Thankfully, we're both used to driving wide vehicles, so it's not a problem. Looking out of the hood is cool because you're looking past those mounting points for the limb risers, for the cables that you're going to use to help limbs clear the roof. You're looking over that black panel with the heat vents on it. It's just really, really cool. It really makes you feel like you're in something that's really capable and that really is just, you know, very stand out. And you are in something like that. This is a really cool vehicle. And that exhaust doesn't sound too bad either. It doesn't feel too unwieldy to drive. You know, it's easy enough, but you definitely get this feeling like you need to pay attention to the mirrors if you're on city streets like I am now with how wide this truck is. And I can't wait for all the people in the comments to say, hey, you called it a truck. That's an SUV. It's a universal term where I'm from. Just get over it. If you've never driven a Ford vehicle with the 10-speed automatic, it is definitely kind of interesting because you feel a lot of shifting, and I feel like maybe you feel it a little bit more in a vehicle like this, especially with how many times it downshifts when you're slowing down to come to a red light. And that's something a lot of people complained about, especially early on with the 10-speed autos, is that they're always hunting for gears and stuff. I do have the exhaust in sport mode, and you can definitely hear it. Makes a lot of noise. It sounds decent for a V6, especially a somewhat smaller one like a 3-liter. You're never gonna make the same sounds as a V8. I would love to see Ford take this one step further and make a Raptor R version of the Bronco that has that same 5.2 in it from the F-150 Raptor R. but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Probably not. Taking it down a bit narrower of a road right now, and that's where you're definitely going to feel like you're filling up the lane. I'm looking at my side views, and I mean, it feels like I'm just filling this lane with this vehicle. I've got the steering set on sport mode right now, and it's pretty responsive, I gotta say. I mean, obviously I'm not giving too much input here because I'm, you know, in a single lane, but get to a spot where it's pretty safe and it's pretty responsive. Let's bump that down to normal mode. Actually, let's bump it to comfort mode. It's still fairly communicative, pretty responsive, and oh, now it's just comfortable to steer now. But we're gonna put it back in sport mode because, of course, you want to be able to actually get some feedback from the steering when you're driving something this cool. As far as acceleration, when I was doing my research, I found the Car and Driver article where they tested it to about 5.6 seconds, 0 to 60. Let's see what this thing feels like. Woo! That was not 5.5. That was a good bit more because I didn't floor it. But man, it's got some power. You can definitely feel that power. 418, 420, something like that. Horsepower, 440 pound-feet of torque. It's no joke. This thing will get up and move, man. And that's with factory 37-inch tires. That's a lot of tire to spin that quickly. And this thing does it pretty well. All right, we've got her on the highway right now. Can't go incredibly fast because, well, traffic. Just want to see what it's like to ride on the highway. Let's put the suspensions in normal mode, and let's put the steering in comfort mode, and we'll set the drive mode to normal. There we go. And we'll just cruise on the highway. Right now it's in its absolute tamest settings, except for the exhaust. It's still in sport mode. But it's its absolute tamest settings as far as steering, suspension, and drive mode. And it's not too bad. As far as road noise, it's not as bad as I feared it would be with those big 37-inch BF Goodrich all-terrains on it. You're going to get a little bit of something off those tires just because they're big off-road tires. And you're definitely going to get some wind noise because of this removable hardtop. It does have some insulation in it, but as far as noise reduction, it's not all that great. You definitely get some wind noise through that top. It's not too terrible, but it is there. Going over some of these bumps, it doesn't soak them up like a Rolls Royce or anything, but for highly capable off-road with comfort settings on the suspension, it could be far worse. It's not insanely harsh. All right, now this may be quite possibly the most pointless test in a Bronco Raptor, but let's see what cornering is like. Now I've got the suspension in sport mode, so it's a bit stiffer, and I got the steering in sport mode, so it's a little stiffer too. This is not made for cornering, which goes without saying, but you know it had to be tried. Let's try it again here. Yeah, it's not a cornering machine. You're definitely getting body roll out of this thing. I'd say it would be worse if it wasn't for the insanely wide track on this thing. If it wasn't 87 inches wide, that would be dangerous. But this is not a cornering machine. It's not what it was meant for. This is for going off-road in some of the craziest conditions. And if you want some straight line speed, you can get a little bit of that too. If you're looking for the most comfortable thing, this is not for you. If you're looking for fuel efficiency, this is not for you. If you're looking for something to hug corners, this is not for you. But if you're looking for something that's insanely capable off-road, that comes from the factory with the big tires, and you don't mind spending nearly 100 grand, then this might just be for you. All right, y'all, so that's gonna do it for the Ford Bronco Raptor. I have to say, this has got to be one of the coolest things I have ever driven, especially in the off-road realm. Although I think it's one of the coolest things I've driven, period, other than, you know, maybe the Dark Horse Mustang, a C8 Corvette, something like that. But this is a truly, truly insane vehicle. Factory 37-inch tires, huge lift, massive fenders, plenty of power up under the hood, lots of cool features inside. This thing is just, I mean, this thing is just king of the off-roaders as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of other people. Yes, the other thing is saying about it is the price tag. It's a lot of money, but this is a lot of vehicle for that money. If you can swing almost $100,000 for an insane off-road vehicle, this is definitely something to put on your shopping list because this thing is crazy. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did like this video, you want to see more from me on this channel, make sure to go back once you're done here and watch the rest of my videos. I've got a bunch of other reviews. Make sure to check them out. If you do like what you see there, consider subscribing to the channel. Follow over on Facebook and Instagram at that car vlog channel. 2 other great ways to get notified of when new videos go up. Once again, huge special thanks to the folks at Ted Russell Ford of Knoxville, Tennessee for allowing me to use this for today's review. They've got 2 stores here in Knoxville. This is borrowed from their Parkside Drive location. Make sure when you're done here to go check them out at the link in the description below. Anyways, guys, once again, thanks y'all so much for watching. You make sure to have a good one.